Hello and welcome. I'm the Big Shot Critic. Today we're going to be talking about my favorite superhero, Spider-Man. Sometime around my 13th birthday, my parents gave each of us siblings a $2 bill because they were going out of circulation and my parents thought it would be fun. Not long after that, my neighbors invited me to see Spider-Man with them in theaters. I had a very small supply of cash. Goodbye, Thomas Jefferson. Hello, Peter Parker. I've never regretted that trade. Spider-Man really is my favorite superhero, and Tobey Maguire is my favorite Spider-Man. I have a special love for these movies, and the first one grabs you right away. Nowadays, it's very common for a movie to put its own music over the studio vanity card at the beginning. But in 2002, this was still new. Doug Liman actually talks about this in his director's commentary on The Bourne Identity, which came out less than 2 months after Spider-Man.
Hi, my name is Doug Liman. I'm the director and the producer of The Bourne Identity. I guess starting right off the bat, you'll notice we didn't do the traditional Universal music against the advice of our excellent mixers, Bob Beamer and Scott Milan, who felt that it's very tricky to pull out that music because that music actually tells people in the theater to shut up and pay attention to your movie, and they were definitely right when I went and saw the film on 42nd Street.
So Danny Elfman's musical Hook, which they decided to use for all 3 Sam Raimi Spider-Man films, was really captivating in 2002. To this day, it still has a powerful effect on me. If I see it and hear it, I'm done for. I have to watch the whole movie. Immediately after, we have the Marvel logo. This is actually the genesis of the current Marvel logo we all know. The signature flip card design was done by a man named Kyle Cooper, and it has been in every Marvel adaptation from every studio since Spider-Man. According to producer Laura Ziskin, it got an ovation the first time moviegoers saw it. Danny Elfman wrote the music for Spider-Man. Before that, he wrote the 1989 Batman theme, which is arguably the most recognizable superhero theme ever, the only real contender being John Williams' Superman theme from 1978. But between Batman, Spider-Man, and his new Avengers theme from Age of Ultron, I feel comfortable saying that Danny Elfman is the only composer who has written a proper superhero theme in the last 40 years. The soundtracks have been in a sorry state for the last 15 years or so anyway, but that's a topic for another day. Up to 2002, there had only been 3 smash hit comic book movies in the entire history of cinema. Superman in 1978, Batman in 1989, and X-Men just 2 years before in 2000. And if history was any indication, then X-Men would be followed by 11 years of box office decline for the genre. Usually, the short-sightedness of studio executives is a bad thing, but in this case, it was good. The success of X-Men was all the evidence they cared about to give Spider-Man a green light. When Spider-Man actually did better than X-Men, well, that was the 1-2 punch that got us into this mess. That's why Sam Raimi, director of Spider-Man, and Bryan Singer, director of X-Men, are considered the godfathers of superhero movies. You would think with how thoroughly the genre has been explored that watching Spider-Man would feel like a step back from more modern comic book movies. But it doesn't. It is campy, but this is by design. The director leverages the campiness, transforming it into charm.
You know who I am.
I do.
Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
This is Sam Raimi's specialty. He imbues the movie with this earnestness that comes off as old-fashioned and warm.
You grabbed me and said, Aunt May? Aunt May? Is that an angel?
Gee, did I say that?
So while the subject matter of a superhero origin story is old hat, this especially charming tone is totally unique to Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, which is why it doesn't feel like a step back from newer superhero movies. Sam Raimi deliberately included classic Spidey poses from the comics. Director John Watts deliberately tried to craft new Spidey poses for Spider-Man Homecoming.
And then John and I went through all of the previous movies and took pictures of every Spidey pose that he lands in. And then we worked through finding 5-10 new poses.
An experiment that I think failed. Spider-Man seemed more like Spider-Man in Captain America's Civil War than he did in Spider-Man Homecoming. And I think it's because they used the classic Spidey poses. And while we're on the topic, I'll just say it. Tobey Maguire is the best Spider-Man. The truth feels good. Before you Garfield and Holland fanboys burn down my channel, let's find some common ground. Tobey as Spider-Man may be perfect, but J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson is divine. I can't imagine another actor taking the role because it would be sinful. It would be wrong. There are actors who are born to play certain roles, and then there's J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson. To say he was born for the role would be to say that it brought meaning and purpose to his life, but it brought those things to all our lives. We were all born for this role. Him to play it, us to enjoy it. Him taking the role was no less important to civilization than the invention of the wheel or the discovery of fire. Before I really start to exaggerate, let's move on. There's a few odds and ends that I want to hit before we go a little bit deeper. Early roles from Elizabeth Banks.
Welcome to the Daily Bugle.
And Octavia Spencer.
Down the hall to the ramp. May God be with you.
Tobey Maguire actually caught all these things for real.
Wow, great reflexes.
The Green Goblin's glider rockets seem to have extremely variable yield. Uncle Ben was 68 years old, but Cliff Robertson was 75 years old. However, the actor had aged so well that the makeup department had to make him look older. Tobey Maguire had to fly to Berlin with strep throat to accommodate Kirsten Dunst's audition for Mary Jane. She later sent him a thank you note. For Sam Raimi's 12th birthday, his mother had Spider-Man painted on his bedroom wall. Apparently, he was quite the fan. I've always found Norman Osborn's reaction in this scene hilarious. Harry wants to deflect the question about his girlfriend, and he baits his father by calling attention to Peter's unemployment.
Hey, Pete, you're probably looking for a job now, right? Dad, maybe you can help me out.
No,
And my favorite fun fact is that the costume department handed out disposable cameras to real high school kids in New York City to get a better understanding of how they dress. Okay. Now we'll go a little deeper. Rich Evans from Red Letter Media once said, "The thrust of the drama in the Spider-Man comic books hasn't been the villains, they're just obstacles. It's always been how his personal life is affected by him being Spider-Man." And there's a link to that video in the description below. I hadn't considered this until I heard it in their video, but I totally agree. And I would go one step further and say that all good Spider-Man stories in comic book or a movie focus on Peter's personal life. That's why this movie shows us every relationship Peter has before he gets his abilities. In less than 15 minutes, we understand his relationship with Harry, Mary Jane, Mr. Osborn, Uncle Ben and Aunt May, and even Flash. With the opening narration, we even understand his relationship with himself. All so we can see how those relationships are changed by his abilities. The theme of Spider-Man is not a difficult one to uncover.
Remember, with great power comes great responsibility.
I think we all understand that Peter shirked that great responsibility and learned a tough lesson because of it. It's certainly a worthwhile message, and it's not the only one in the movie. There's also a message on the importance of fathers. In the midst of all the fantasy in action, we have Peter doing exactly what Uncle Ben said he would do.
These are the years when a man changes into the man he's going to become the rest of his life. Just be careful who you change into.
On the one hand, we have Uncle Ben. His wise words and Peter's choices lead to a lesson Peter won't forget. On the other hand, we have Norman Osborn. Norman admires Peter's scientific abilities and partially takes Peter under his wing, while clearly not offering his own son the same affection.
You know, I'm something of a scientist myself.
Just as Norman flatters Peter, the Green Goblin flatters Spider-Man. They clash every time they meet, but the Goblin openly praises Spider-Man's superhuman talents, and even invites him to join forces.
You, me, we're exceptional.
This thread closes when Peter learns that Norman Osborn is the Green Goblin. By this time, Norman also knows Peter is Spider-Man. One last offer is made, and is firmly rejected by Peter.
Believe in me, as I believed in you. I've been like a father to you. Be a son to me now.
I have a father. His name was Ben Parker.
When I was younger, I thought this was oddly specific and pronounced for the climax of the movie, but now I realize this is Peter declaring what kind of man he has changed into, and therefore what kind of man he will be for the rest of his life. He rejects the duplicitous father figures of Norman Osborn and the Green Goblin, and he repents of his initial rejection of Uncle Ben's words.
And I know I'm not your father.
Then stop pretending to be. I have a father. His name was Ben Parker.
Good father figures are extremely important. Young people don't often have to choose between their friend's psychopath dad and their good-natured uncle, but the message is clear. Fathers provide the model of what young men will become. Peter's journey in this movie isn't about gaining superpowers or saving New York. It's about choosing what kind of man he will become. Two clear paths are laid before him, and in the end, it's not his abilities that make him a hero. It's choosing the correct path. Spider-Man gets 10 out of 10 commandments. It kept the 11th one. Thou shalt be the original and still the best. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Let me know what you thought in the comments. Bye-bye.